Morning. Welcome to Alright, What's Next? Today we're going to work on making a shelf for my RC truck here. I won this thing in a Snap-on raffle about, I don't know, two and a half years ago. You know, you go on the tool truck, you buy tools, you make your weekly tool payment. They give you friggin' scratch off tickets, scratch them off, put the code in online. And I happened to win this TRAXXAS XMAXX Special Edition Snap-on RC truck. This thing is freaking pretty badass. In its current configuration, it does like 35 mile an hour out across the pasture. It's cool to drive. It's insane. You can change out the ring and pinion gears, and it'll do 50 mile an hour out on a concrete surface. But I don't have any concrete around here. Nearest concrete's about 4 miles that way, and I'm not driving into town to drive an RC truck. But for the most part, this thing spends its life sitting up on top of my beer fridge out here in the shop, and it's up there just collecting dust, out of sight, out of mind. I want to build a nice decorative, I don't know, somewhat decorative. I'm not going to get really fancy with it because it's a shelf for my shop, and you know, I don't really do the extensive, super hardcore woodworking joints and stuff. I build simplistic things that look nice for me. But we're going to build a shelf, put over on the wall over there where my flag used to be. I moved the flag over here so I can make wall space to put this. That way this is down, it's in view of everybody. And yeah, I seen a design I wanted to give a try. So maybe towards the end of the video we'll take this thing out for a drive as well. But the first thing we got to do, we got to cut up a bunch of boards. We got to glue them together. So let's figure out how big of a shelf we actually need. Get these tires straight here. Its overall wheelbase footprint, we would need a shelf minimum 2 foot long for the tires to sit on it. So I think we'll go with 30 inches to give some extra free play so I can trim the edges down. And then an overall width, we're going to sit about 22 inches. So we need to put some boards together, make a platform 22 by 30. Now we need to make 2 of them because we're going to have a top and a bottom, and then there's going to be sides. We're going to make a box, and then they'll have to put a front on it. And those are going to slide over top of supports that are screwed into the wall, so we're going to make kind of a floating shelf design. So let's go ahead and start cutting up some boards and getting them glued together. Alright, so I got the panels out of the clamps and everything. Now I'm ready to start trimming them down to the size that I want and fortifying the edges and that so I can glue them together. It would be preferable if I could do this in a table saw. What I've got is a small little job site table saw, and it can be done using that table saw. I don't like it because the actual table on them is so small. You know, you've only got about 12 inches from one side of the fence to the blade. There's very little room to work. You can't swap, on this particular design, you can't swap the blade or the fence to the opposite side of the blade so I can work on the other side of the table where the 45, so the small piece of wood can come off. It's difficult to do when you're dealing with a larger panel, and anytime that the workpiece starts to get difficult to handle on a table saw is pretty much when you lose your fingers. So I am going to do this a different way. It's not going to be as accurate as a table saw as if I had a nice big cabinet grade one, which I don't. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a worm dry skill saw. I already set it to 45 degrees. So we got the blade set at 45. We're going to set it up here, figure out where we want to make the cut. Then I got this drywall square. We'll put that on here, slide it over to the deck of the skill saw. Okay, now we know the path that the skill saw's got to travel. We'll just let that dangle down. Make that square. Now I want to give myself a little extra friggin' wiggle room, so we're going to slide it over about 3/8 of an inch. We'll mark a line, and then know what we'll do. We're going to take a board with a straight edge on it, and we're going to clamp it to either side of it, and that'll be our fence to allow us to run the skill saw down and get our 45-degree bevel, and then we'll switch it over and do it on that side. Now, being that I already went through the process and figured out the distance in from the board, I will just measure this distance and transfer it over there and make the cut. Now, I need a pencil. Where's my pencil? I got to sharpen my pencil. When I moved into the house, this pencil sharpener was out in one of the barns, and it was covered in bird crap. And it's like, that's just like the best pencil sharpener ever freaking made. I can't just have it out there rotting away. So I cleaned it up, brought it in here. All right, now we'll grab a board that's got a straight line edge on it. Line it up with your line, and we'll clamp it down, and we'll make our cut. I need some more short extension cords. Right now I got my 20-foot extension cord plugged into my camera so it doesn't die on me. So to run my skill saw, I'm running a 100-foot extension cord, so I can go around my workbench about freaking 30 times and still have freaking excess. Alright, let's see how bad I screwed this up. You know what? I need to clamp the whole piece down to the workmate. Actually seemed to work pretty good. Let's try it on the other side. We got the two edges 45. We have to have the front face 45 as well, because it's going to have your two end boards, the bottom board, and then we'll have the front cap board. So what we got to do now, we'll just turn this thing. We'll set up our marks on here, and we'll 45 this front edge, and then we'll jump over to the other panel And then we got to make the sides in the front. Now, from the looks of the cutoff, I could probably drop that measurement down, but it's too late now. This one's already cut, so we got to make the other one the same. So this board is done. You can see 45s, 45, three sides are all 45s. So we'll make that the top. Let's get the other board. All right, we got top and a bottom. Now we got to work on the sides and the front. Okay, so now we need to cut our sides. We got to figure out our overall length. We'll cut some boards and then we'll 45 them. We're looking at 22 7/16. Let's see what this side is. Holy crap, it's the same. Oh, we're slightly off there. Yeah. Oh, that's why. This leading edge has got some boogers on it. These are both 22 7/16 inches. I'm not sure how that happened, but I got my measurements right. First try. So I am bound to completely hose up the rest of this. 1x4. And once again, I said 22 7/16. I think we're going to take and cut this end off first, so I got a nice clean edge over on the miter saw, and then we'll cut our two boards at 22 7/16. You know what, I need to 45 these things. So 22 7/16, I need to kick this thing over to a 45-degree angle. Alright, so I don't know what the hell the problem is. The locking mechanism is jammed up on the tilt mechanism back here. You're supposed to be able to take this thing, lock it in place, push down on it, it releases a lock, and it allows that thing to rotate. I don't have a manual or troubleshooting guide. I got manuals for freaking everything. Apparently don't have a manual for this one. I'm not sure why it's locked up. I don't generally use this to cut bevels, but it's all right. We can still get it done. What we'll do, we'll cut these boards to slightly longer than what I need them, and we'll take them over to the table saw. With this nice little short small piece, we can freaking put it on the miter gauge, drop it at 45, and we can cut our bevel here that we need. So that's what we'll go ahead and do. Got an angle gauge. Now it probably don't need to be this accurate, but I own it. I'm going to use it. What you do is you just set your angle gauge down on here. Here, let me bring I think I've already gone over this in another video, but you zero it out. So you set it on the table surface. There's a button here that says 0. Zeroes it out. Now it's set perfectly level to the table surface. Now we adjust the blade, so we got to take and raise the blade up so we've got a mounting surface. Then we unlock it, bring it up here to where it says 45. We stick that on there, and we adjust this thing until it says 45. Right there. Yeah, it's 45.2, but you know, 45. It's because I'm moving around on the floor. All right, that's about as close as we're going to get for this application. All right, so where's my line? There's my line. That is the opposite direction. So we have to 45 from this side. Which means we got to try and remove this fence right here. I'm not sure. I've never tried taking this fence off. I think there's an easier way of doing it. Oh, yeah. It just lifts off. So, miter gauge. I'm going to set this guy up in here. We'll make a couple of passes and we'll sneak up on our line. In fact, we don't need that much blade, so let's get rid of most of that blade. There we go. So we need to come in just a hair. Right there. There's our line. We're right on it. Perfect. So we'll do the other one. Then we got a 45 both of these sides here. There we go, another 45. Okay, so now I need to put the rip fence back on. I need to rip the top and bottoms. So we need to set this to not take off more than we need. So just kind of eyeball her right down there to where it goes right down the edge. All right. Let's see if we can mate these guys up a little bit. So to cut the front, I need a tape measure. Where did I put my tape? There it is. I probably need a beer. Hold on. So it should be as simple as just going here to here. We're going to do 29 inches from that position. And we should be able to just take another 1x4, cut it at 29 inches, got to 45 the ends, and then 45 the edges. So let's cut this slightly longer than 29 inches so we can sneak up on her. Alright, so we got our 29-inch front piece. So now we got a 45, 45, 45, 45. So I guess it's back to the table saw. So now we should have a front cap that'll just pop right into place. It won't, nothing ever does, especially when you're doing 45s with less than super accurate tools, especially when you're starting your work on a miter saw over there and using a skill saw. But you know what? I guarantee we're going to be relatively close close is pretty good enough in the woodworking world. We can go in there with a sander and we can round these things over, clean these edges up, as long as we get a relatively tight fit. That's going to be the important part. We need a relatively tight fit. So now I need my nail gun, my air compressor, glue. Probably put some plastic down on here. That way I don't get more glue all over my damn freaking bench. So I'm going to turn the air compressor on and let that thing charge up. Work on gluing these guys up. Well, we got the air compressor up and running. Get a little brad nailer out. I just got 1 1/4 inch brad nails. We'll go ahead and use them. Alright, since it's not going to be exposed to moisture or anything, we can just go ahead and use this Type Bond original wood glue. My bottle's about empty. Check the inside of my flashlight. See how many nails I messed with. None. They all went where they were supposed to go. Alright, so now I just got to let this set up overnight. Looks like I got to do a little trim work on the back. They didn't quite meet up. And this one corner right here didn't come together. I will round this all over with a sander, and that will actually hide a good portion of this. And what doesn't get hidden, I can put a color match wood filler in there before I stain it. We're good to go. Now we just wait till tomorrow. Actually, in this case, next Thursday. Glue's all set up. I can get these clamps off here. We'll sand this thing. I'm going to use a belt sander with a 40 grit belt on there. And that'll remove all the unevenness between my glue up surfaces right here. I'm going to round all the corners off, get it all nice rounded shape. Once I round it off, that'll clean up this gap down here, and what little bit of a gap that's left, we'll just fill that with some wood filler. So we get these clamps off here. Alright, before we go and sand with this, we're going to put in some wood filler to clean up a couple of these gaps where I didn't get my joints freaking perfect. It's just Elmer's natural color freaking wood filler. We'll just put it in there. This stuff is sandable, paintable. It'll take the stain. Once it's in there, it's dry, we sand it off smooth. You really barely even be able to know it's there. When I put sandpaper on here, with these oscillating sanders, I found that when you're using these things, the paper wants to freaking wander and come off. You just hit it with a little bit of that spray adhesive right there, just a quick little shot on there, stick it on there, and then the sandpaper doesn't move at all, and it just peels right back off. It leaves a little bit of paper residue, but that ain't no big deal. So it's a little old. Got some dry goopy at the top. Alright, now we'll just let that dry, and then we can do the sanding. Alright, now while we gotta wait for that wood putty to dry before we can do all the finish sanding. So now we need to build the support structure that's gonna go in here, that's gonna be screwed onto the wall, that's gonna support this floating shelf. I got a bunch of scrap pieces of 2x4s laying around, so we need to make this the same size as this opening, and we're gonna have a bunch of braces that are going to come off of here. So we need to rip these things down, cut them to length. So let's figure this out. It's going to be, we cut that at 27 and a half. Go a little heavy on the half. This is what we got. We're going to mount it up here on this wall. And the studs in this wall, I built, they're 24 on center, roughly. So 27 and a half is going to put the outside of them out here, because we want to be able to screw in solid into these studs, because that RC truck is actually relatively heavy. It probably weighs about 30 pounds and it extends out real far, so we've got to have a really good support structure. There we go. Alright, now we need to rip this for the opening. We're looking at 2 inches, 2 inches. So we want this to be able to slide on relatively easy. So we'll probably go ahead and rip this at 1 7/8. That's a much better fit right there. So we'll keep table saw set at that. So now we've got our wall piece. So now we need to rip a bunch of boards down. That'll be our supports. We don't need to go the full length all the way out. We're probably only about halfway. But we'll go ahead and start by ripping this to the width. There's my base. Here's everything to make the legs. We want to figure out how far to make the legs. That's 22 inches. That's 22 inches. So the box is roughly 22 inches. We ripped these at 11 inches. That's half the distance. That should be more than enough support. Something like that. So now we need to pre-drill them and run some screws in. All right. Let's make sure this is going to slide in and fit. Slides in and fits. So, I want some additional support. I want to put in a block across here that I can come in from the sides, try and tie this together a little bit better, give it a little more vertical frickin' strength. Alright, so the truck is 16.5 inches tall, so we got to make sure we at least come down 17 inches. I think we'll put her right at 19 inches. Where's my damn pencil at? We'll come down off the roof. Right here's the stud. This will be top of the shelf right there. Let me find my level. That line there. That will be the top of the shelf. Where to mount this, we got to compensate for the thickness of this. This is one by material, which generally puts it at 3/4 of an inch. So we need to drop that line down 3/4 of an inch, and that will be where the bracket goes. Alright, that's kind of cool. I still got to get it freaking sanded and stained. We'll see. It might break off and I'll come out here in the middle of the night or early in the morning and find my truck laying on the floor. Alright, so off camera, I got all the sanding done. I sanded this thing down to 150 grit. It's nice and smooth now. We're pretty much ready to go into friggin' staining. One other thing that I did off camera, I took a drill and I drilled some pilot holes in right here. And when I slide it up onto the rack up there, because this is such a large shelf and it's going to have a truck sitting on it that's about 35 pounds, I wanted some extra support to keep it pulled up into the wall. So you just take a drill and you start like this and you drill down just a hair and then you tip it over. And then I drilled down through an angle on both sides over here. That way when I slide it up on there, I can hold the shelf up, run a 3.5-inch screw down through that. That'll go into the freaking stud, and that'll help pull it up to the wall, keep it tight so it doesn't sag. This style of floating shelf probably wasn't necessarily meant to have such a huge shelf and have so much weight sitting on it. So we're just going to add a little bit of extra freaking support to it to keep it level, because it does kind of tilt down just a hair. But that's all right. It'll work. It'll be fine. And you won't really see these screws because I did put a countersink in there, so the heads will drop down below there, and you're not going to see it unless you're looking way up over top of it. The truck's going to block it, and you know what? If you see it and you complain about it and you think it's stupid looking, I am more than happy to show you the door. So now we just got to stain it, put the polyurethane on there, throw it up on the wall, then we'll take that truck out and we'll take it for a drive. What we're going to do for a stain is I just got this natural cherry. We're going to use that. It's not really my favorite color of stain. I just had it. I don't even remember why I bought it. I had it here when I built the shop. When I built the shop, I got all the trim for my lights, around the walls, everything. I had this stuff, so I just stained everything this natural cherry. So I might as well continue with the theme, the natural cherry. So to stain it, we can do the entire thing all at once using this workmate here. What we're going to do is take these boards, we'll clamp them into the workmate, slide it down over top of it. That will support it, and then we can do all the sides at once. Hopefully, if this will fit. All right. Now we can throw some stain on it. Alright, so the shelf is pretty well done. I got the last coat of polyurethane on it over there. It's drying. It's just about done. Later on today we'll be able to go ahead and get that thing put on the wall. But while it's doing, finishing up its drying, we might as well take this thing out for a spin. So we got to get the batteries out, get them charged. This thing runs dual batteries, TRAXXAS specific batteries. I don't really know anything about it. Like I said, I didn't research this thing or look into anything about getting this thing. I won it in a raffle. In my opinion, if I was going to buy an RC truck, and I've had a lot of them over the years, I wouldn't buy what they call the RTR or ready to run trucks, because I like the process of actually unboxing them, taking them out, and having to put them together as a complete kit. You know, assembling the gearboxes and suspensions and everything like that. That way you know everything about that truck before you take it out and drive it for the first time, because you're gonna break them. And if you put it together, then you know how to take it apart, fix the parts. But on this thing, I don't know jack about it, other than you charge the batteries up, you put them in there, and you drive it. Plus, just the way I am, I like building things. And if you buy a high-end RC truck, I want to build it. I'm not bashing on TRAXXAS. This thing is a badass truck. But it wouldn't be something that I would actually purchase. You just plug the charger in, take your batteries. They only go in one way. Plug them in. There's a whole bunch of different settings. Once the batteries are in, these lights come on. You just push and hold them down until they get that audio, and then it starts charging. And then it's got the little tree lights that come up here until it's solid green. Once it's solid green, it's fully charged. This thing recognizes what kind of batteries you put in there, whether they're LiPo or nickel metal hydride or whatever the hell different types of batteries are. You can change the charge selection rate. You can actually make it charge even faster. I'm not going to do that. Could you get a better charge if you just let it do a slow trickle charge? It takes, I don't know, about an hour and a half, 2 hours to completely charge these things. I haven't actually used the fast charge. I just don't know how long that takes. But I'm going to leave it on this. We'll just let it sit here until these things fully charge. Then we'll throw the batteries in there and we'll go out and pop some wheelies and spin some cookies and throw up gravel everywhere. Alright, so the batteries are now fully charged. We got the controller. Got some batteries for the controller. You don't want to leave your batteries in the controller because they can explode and ruin your controller. There we go. Controller's on. You want the controller on before you turn the truck on. Now to put the batteries in the truck, this tailgate opens up. Inside of here is a little switch. You flip over, lift it up, and that unlocks the cab. And then the body just slides back and off. There's a hook on the front. This also has an electrical connector right here that I didn't have hooked up. This runs the cab lights. So you just get it out of the way. And then each of these batteries, they got battery trays. Alright, once the batteries are in, I like to pick it up for turning it on in case it does take off. There's a button right here. Click it. Everything comes to life. Check your servos. Yep, everything's running. Okay, battery back on, or cab back on. There's a front cab support that slides down over the suspension tower, but we'll hook up, hook cab lights up. Everything's locked down. Close your tailgate. We're ready to drive. We had to have a goat come out here, check out the RC truck. We're going to have to move him because this thing would probably just flat destroy him. That is some really piss poor driving right there. Apparently the llamas don't like this.
What? It's just you? You want to drive it?
Alright, everything is dry, shelf is done, it is ready to go up and get mounted on there. That way I can put my Snap-on TRAXXAS RC truck in this new permanent home. So let's slide this thing on there. Once we get it up on there, I'm also going to help secure it with these two 3 3/4 inch long screws. Try and take the sag out of it. And take this here and just kind of wedge it up. Wedge that in place like that. That way when I run the screws in, it's already up, kind of past where I want it to be. This probably isn't going to take all the sag out. Actually, I know it's not going to take all the sag out, but it's just going to help keep this thing from pulling away from the wall. video on them someday and show you what they are. Alright, let's put the truck in its home. Put the controller up there. There we go. I think that's pretty cool. And what thought about, like, what would be cool is like if you made one of these shelves, put some like LED puck lights up underneath here. Thought about getting me a Snap-on sign that can hang from the chains right here. But that's way better than having it just sitting on top of my damn refrigerator. There's another project down. So, remember, hit subscribe, turn on them notifications, hit that like button, dislike button, I don't care. But go ahead and, make sure you subscribe. With that notifications, you'll know when I make another one of these dumb videos. I'll see you next time.